When did you last stop? Not sleep, not scroll, not switch from one task to another while calling it a break. When did you last genuinely stop? If you're struggling to remember, this episode is for you. Hi, friends. Welcome back to English with Moon. Pull your shoulders away from your ears. Yes, right now. And let's slow down together for a while. The moon rests every morning. It gives its light through the night, and then it steps back. Not because it failed, because even the moon knows the giving and the resting are both necessary. Many of us grew up with a message, spoken or unspoken, that went something like this: if you are not busy, you are wasting time. Work is good. Rest is suspect. Being productive is the measure of your worth. And so we learned to feel guilty when we stopped. We learned to fill every quiet moment with something useful. We learned to say, "I've been so busy," as if it were proof of value. As if busyness were the same thing as a life well lived. We scroll through our phones instead of sitting with stillness. We plan the next thing before the current thing is finished. We make to-do lists for our weekends and feel vaguely unsatisfied when we reach Sunday evening and the list isn't done, because doing nothing feels wrong. But I want to ask you something. Where did that feeling come from? It didn't come from nowhere. For much of the last 2 centuries, productivity really was survival. The industrial era rewarded output above all else. The more you produced, the more you earned, the more you were worth. And that logic seeped into the culture so deeply that many of us absorbed it as a personal belief without ever choosing it. We inherited the idea that rest is laziness, that stopping is a character flaw, that a person who is resting is a person who is falling behind. But here is the thing. We've carried that belief for so long that we've forgotten it's just a belief, not a natural law, not a fact about the universe, not a truth about who you are, just a story borrowed from a time and a context that no longer applies, and one we are allowed to put down. We are not the first generation to struggle with this, but we may be the first where the pressure to be always on has become truly inescapable. We carry the office in our pockets. Messages arrive at 2 in the morning, and we feel the pull to answer. The news never pauses. The scroll never ends. Even our leisure has become a kind of performance. We share our meals, our holidays, our moments of quiet. And somewhere in that sharing, the quiet stops being quiet. And the message underneath all of it is, there is always more to do. There is always someone more productive than you. Stopping means falling behind. But look at the natural world for a moment. The sun sets every night without apology. Tides go out. Bears hibernate through winter and emerge in spring without shame. Deciduous trees lose their leaves entirely, and stand bare for months, not broken, not failing, not lazy, resting, preparing, drawing inward so that the outward growth can happen again. There is winter in every living system, a season of drawing inward, of slowing, of restoration. Every system, except the one we have built for ourselves. We are the only species that actively fights its own winter. That treats the fallow season as a problem to be overcome, rather than a phase to be honored. And that fight costs something. It costs our health, sleep deprivation, chronic stress, burnout that arrives not like a sudden collapse, but like a slow leak. So gradual we don't notice until we are running on empty and calling it fine. It costs our creativity. It costs our relationships, because a depleted person cannot truly be present for the people they love, no matter how much they want to be. And quietly, it costs us ourselves, the version of us that exists underneath the to-do lists, the one with opinions and preferences, and a sense of what matters. I think we misunderstand what rest even means. We imagine it as emptiness, lying on the sofa, doing nothing, being useless. But real rest is not emptiness. Real rest is restoration. Think about a field. Any experienced farmer knows you cannot plant the same crop in the same soil, year after year, without giving the land time to recover. The field needs fallow seasons, periods, where nothing is grown, where the soil rebuilds itself quietly from the inside out. And when the field is resting, it doesn't look productive. It looks empty. It looks like nothing is happening. But something is happening. The soil is replenishing. Nutrients are returning. The invisible work of recovery is underway, under the surface, where no one can see it. Your mind and body are no different. When you sleep deeply, your brain is not idle. It is doing some of its most important work, consolidating memory, processing emotion, repairing connections, clearing out the day's accumulated waste. Sleep researchers have found that the brain runs what some call a glymphatic cleansing cycle during deep sleep. Cerebrospinal fluid moves through the brain tissue, washing out metabolic byproducts that build up during the waking hours. This process cannot happen while you are awake. The channels that allow it only open properly during sleep. You are not lazy when you sleep. You are maintaining something essential, something that cannot be maintained any other way. Here is something that still surprises me. When neuroscientists first started studying the brain at rest, the brain not doing anything in particular, not focused on a task, they expected to find reduced activity. The brain powering down, like a computer going to sleep. Instead, they found something entirely different. A completely separate network of regions lights up. Regions that are quiet when you are focused become active when you stop focusing. The mind starts connecting unrelated ideas, processing emotions, rehearsing conversations, making meaning from the day's experiences. They called it the default mode network. And it turns out, this network is where some of our most creative and important thinking happens. Not at a desk with a deadline, not in a meeting room, in the shower, on a long walk, staring out a window with nowhere to be. You've probably felt this. A problem you've been staring at all week suddenly becomes clear while you're washing dishes. A creative idea arrives not when you're sitting at your desk trying to have one, but when you're doing something quiet and unrelated. An answer comes to you just before sleep, when your mind has finally been allowed to wander. That is not coincidence. That is the default mode network doing its work. And that work cannot happen if you never stop. If every moment of potential wandering is immediately filled with a podcast, a notification, a task, the network never gets the space it needs. The connections never form. The moments that look like wasted time are often the moments when your brain is doing something nothing else allows it to do. I want to tell you about a woman named May. May was the most capable person in her office. Everyone knew it. She was the one people went to when something was complicated, when the deadline was impossible, when no one else knew what to do. She worked early and stayed late, answered emails at midnight, never said no, never admitted she was tired. She was proud of this. It was her identity, the reliable one, the capable one, the one who never dropped anything. For 3 years, she kept this up. She told herself she was fine. She had systems. She had coffee. She had the satisfaction of being needed, which felt something like energy, even when it wasn't. And then one Tuesday morning in October, she sat down at her desk, opened her laptop, looked at the screen, and could not do a single thing. Not a choice, not a protest. Her system had simply used everything available. There was nothing left. The doctor told her to rest. 3 weeks off work. May described those first days as the most frightening of her life, not because anything dangerous was happening, but because she had to sit with herself, without a task to complete, without a purpose to perform, without the structure that had told her for 3 years who she was. Just May. She didn't know what to do with that. But by the end of the second week, something had shifted. She was sleeping through the night for the first time in years. She walked slowly through the park near her house and noticed things she had never noticed before. The way leaves moved differently in different winds. A particular bench beside a small pond that she'd passed 100 times without seeing. She cooked food she actually wanted to eat. She called her mother and talked for an hour about nothing important. At the end of the 3 weeks, she said something that still stays with me. I feel like myself again. I didn't realize I had forgotten what that felt like. She had been so busy performing productivity, being the capable one, the reliable one, that she had drifted completely away from the person doing the performing. Rest brought her back. One more thing worth knowing, and I think this changes how we approach the whole question. Rest is not one thing. Physical rest, sleep, stillness, lying down, is what we usually mean when we say rest. But it is only one kind. And for many people, physical rest alone isn't enough, because physical exhaustion isn't their only problem. There is mental rest. Stepping away from problem solving, from planning, from the constant management of information and decisions. Just sitting outside and watching the clouds. Doing something that doesn't require your brain to perform. Mental rest is what you need when you wake up after 8 hours of sleep, still feeling like you've been working all night, because your mind was. There is emotional rest. Time with people who don't need anything from you, or time completely alone if people themselves have been the drain. Emotional rest is permission to exist without tending to anyone else's feelings for a while, including the unspoken expectations of the people you love. There is social rest, which is subtly different from emotional rest. It means time with people you don't have to perform for, where you can show up without the version of yourself that says, "I'm fine, everything is fine," where you can be uncertain or quiet or unimpressive and still be welcome. And there is creative rest, not making anything, just receiving. A piece of music that asks nothing of you. A walk in a forest where you don't have to produce anything from the experience. Watching the rain on glass. These are all real forms of rest, and they restore different things. You might sleep 8 hours and still wake up tired because physical rest wasn't what you needed. You needed to stop performing, to stop managing, to stop being someone for a while. So ask yourself honestly, what kind of tired am I? And then give yourself that. The body keeps an honest record. It doesn't perform. It doesn't soften the truth to make you feel better about how you've been treating it. When you push past tiredness, it notes it. When you deprive yourself of sleep, it notes it. When you run on stress and willpower and caffeine instead of actual restoration, it notes all of it quietly, without complaint, for a while, and then the body stops being quiet. It might start as a headache that keeps returning, a cold that won't quite clear, a concentration that slips at the wrong moments, a temper shorter than you recognize as yours, snapping at people you love over things that shouldn't matter. These are not weaknesses. They are dispatches. Messages from a system that has been carrying more than it was built to carry for longer than it was designed to. The body is saying, "I've been waiting for you to listen." May heard that message the hard way. Many of us do. We wait for the collapse, for the forcing function that removes the choice before we allow ourselves to stop. But there is another way to hear it before it becomes a shout. You can notice the whisper, the slight drag in the morning that doesn't lift by noon, the restlessness at night that makes sleep shallow, the irritability, the foggy thinking, the sense of going through the motions without really being present. These whispers are worth listening to, not as failure, but as information. What would your body thank you for tonight? Not a holiday, not a dramatic change, just tonight. 1 hour less, one screen off, one genuine, unearned permission to stop. I know some of you are listening and thinking, this sounds good, but I can't. There's too much to do. People are depending on me. If I stop, things fall apart. I hear that, and I want you to know that I'm not asking you to abandon your responsibilities. I'm not saying the work doesn't matter, or that the people who need you aren't real, but I want to offer you one refrain. On every airplane, the instructions say, put your own oxygen mask on first, before the person next to you, before the child in your care. Not because you matter more, because if you run out of air, you cannot help anyone else. And this is the truth about rest that I think we resist most deeply. Not because we don't understand it, but because it requires us to trust that taking care of ourselves is not selfish. That resting is not abandonment. That the version of us that has been genuinely restored is actually more useful, more present, more giving than the one who is running on empty and calling it dedication. Resting is not time stolen from the people who need you. It is the condition that makes giving possible. The list will not finish. That is not a failure of your work ethic. It is simply the nature of a life with purpose and care. There will always be more. If you wait until everything is done before you rest, you will never rest. The permission has to come from inside, not from the completion of the list. So tonight, when this episode ends, put the phone down. Close the tabs. Let tomorrow wait until tomorrow. The work will be there in the morning. And in the morning, you will be better equipped to meet it. Because rest is not what comes after the work. It is what makes the work sustainable. And you deserve to be sustainable. Thank you for being here tonight. This is English with Moon, a slow, gentle place to practice your English and take care of your heart. I want to know, what does rest actually look like for you? What is the one thing that genuinely restores you? Not what you think should restore you, but what actually does. Tell me in the comments. A new episode arrives soon. I'll see you in the next one. And until then, your body already knows what it needs. Listen to it tonight. Good night, friends.